So today we're going to make some simple but tasty brown rice. I always keep some brown rice on hand. I think that having some good whole grains available to cook with is great. So this is short grain organic brown rice. Came from the Whole Food store. And this is a particular brand. It's a Lundberg brand from California. I buy it in bulk, but you can also, it's often sold in supermarkets in a cellophane container. So this is my favorite rice cooking pan. This is an old Le Creuset. They call it a Dutch oven. This is a pretty small size. It's a B. It's about I'd say it's about a six cup size. And typically what I do is use 1 part rice and 2 parts of water. But it's always important to soak the rice ahead of time. It helps release some of the phytic acid in the rice. So typically what I'll do is make about a cup and a half worth of rice. So we'll just put a cup and a half in here, and then we're going to go over and wash the rice, because that's always really important. You want to start with clean rice. So here we are, we're going to wash the rice, and I usually wash it about 2 or 3 times. Get some water in there, and you can use your fingers if you want, but having been in the restaurant business, I try and not touch my food as much, although there's something to be said for having your hands and fingers on the food. I think it adds some of your own energy into it. So you can see how the water's clouding up a little bit as I stir. So let that, just kind of pour some of that off a little bit. Good stir. Usually Lundberg rice is pretty clean, so I usually do it about 3 times, and you can see this time that the water is not quite as cloudy. Give it a good stir there, and drain it off again. You can use a strainer if you're. I don't feel that you have to get every drop of water out, so I don't use a strainer. So 3rd time stirring, you can see the water's not changing very much at all, so that's a good thing. That means the rice is pretty clean. So we're going to go ahead and do that. For the last stirring. Then I'm going to add some water. I've got filtered water here for this. I add enough water to cover the rice with about 1 inch of water overhand. Now we're actually going to throw this water out when we're done with the soaking process. So the exact measurement isn't that important at this point. I add just like a very tiny pinch of salt that kind of works in the reaction of the soaking process. Give everything a good stir. Grab the cover, put the cover on the pot, and we're going to let it soak for a few hours. So our rice has been soaking for about 4 hours now, and what we're going to do is we're going to drain the rice, we're going to drain the water out of the rice, and then we're going to roast the rice before adding water for the final cooking. This gives it a really nice nutty flavor. It makes it a little bit special, a little bit nicer than just plain old boiled rice. So we're going to go through that process now. So first I'm going to drain the rice. And I'm not going to show you that because I think you can all figure out how to do the draining of the rice. So what we're going to do is we're going to roast the rice. And so in the pot, we've got the rice that is more or less dry. And we'll time lapse through this a little bit so you don't have to sit there and watch this get hot. But I've got the pot on high. And I've got it's good to have a nice little rubber spatula or something to mix up the rice. What we're going to do is going to roast the rice for a few minutes and roast it until it's nice and nutty, and it'll start smelling nutty, and that gives it a really nice. So now you can hear that the water's boiling off, and the rice is starting to smell a little bit nutty, and that's a good thing. So we're going to let this water boil off a little bit more. We want to get the rice pretty dry for the next step. So the rice is now pretty dry, and there's not as much sizzling going on anymore because you don't hear the water in there. So at this point now, the rice is really starting to roast, and in some cases you can even see a little bit of browning happening on the kernels, which is kind of neat. I always add a little bit of toasted sesame oil to my brown rice, and just not much, maybe like a teaspoon. Just to add a little flavor. So mix that in there, and you can hear that sizzling in as part of the roasting process. Oh, it smells great. So keep stirring. You know, give all the grains a chance to have contact with the bottom of the pot and get some roasting going on there. Now I tend to salt my food when I'm cooking pretty lightly. So in this case, I'm probably going to use about half a teaspoon of salt. I use Lima brand sea salt, and just kind of sprinkle that in. Actually, I'm not even going to use that much. I like to do the salting before I add the water. And again, kind of mixing everything together, and the salt and the oil kind of gets roasted in with the grains of rice. And I think that adds to the flavor of everything. Just kind of keep stirring that up. Remember, this is very different from stir-fried rice. You've used a very small amount of oil in here, and you can actually use no oil at all and still get great results. The end result here is going to be about 4.5 cups of rice. So, you know, the amount of salt and oil that I used, as you can tell, is pretty minimal for the volume of rice produced. So at this point now, you know, things are starting to stick a little bit more, and it's really smelling nutty. So I'm going to go ahead and add the water. I've got 3 cups of water because I used 1.5 cups of rice. So 2 to 1, water to rice. So we're going to go ahead and add 3 cups of water. And the water is not boiling. The water is, you know, tap water, filtered tap water. But because the pot is very hot and the rice is very hot, it's going to come to a boil very quickly. So I just go ahead and stir, and you know, just kind of scrape along the bottom to make sure that there are no rice grains that are stuck to the bottom of the pan. So at this point, what we're going to do, we're just going to let this come to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, and let it simmer covered for about 45 minutes, and we'll have some really delicious brown rice. So just a quick check on the rice. Let's take a look here. That's coming along nicely. It's boiling a little vigorously for me. I actually like my rice to cook slowly. So even though the heat was on low, I turned it down a little bit more. So it's going to cook a little bit more slowly. It probably has another 15 to 20 minutes or so before it's going to be ready. Well, it looks like we're about done. The sizzling has stopped. We've got some nice holes in the top of the rice. And a little pokey here. Oh, this texture feels really nice. And we're going to have a little cheat here. Don't do this at home, boys and girls. Mmm, nice and tender. Sometimes I let the brown rice sit in the pot for a while to get a little tender, a little more cooked, even though the heat is off. So there you have it. Some nice, easy, tasty brown rice. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video recipe on how to make tasty, simple brown rice. It's a great thing to keep in the fridge. I keep a pot of brown rice in the fridge almost all the time, and it's something that I use on a just about daily basis for creating meals for myself and for the family. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.